In this mini episode, we're taking a few minutes to slow down and reflect on how healthy relationships are built, one ingredient at a time. Using a simple cake metaphor and the relationship attachment model, you'll be invited to notice how attachment patterns show up in the way you connect with others. Welcome back to Stay Mindful with Dr. Evelyn Davis. I am Dr. Evelyn Davis, and you're going to want to grab your apron for this one because we're about to walk through the ingredients that make up healthy relationships. To get ready, go and grab a pen and also pull out that RAM worksheet that's linked in the episode description. As we move through this exercise, keep in mind this isn't about judging your relationships or even labeling yourself. It's simply a chance to slow down, get curious, and notice how connection is built in your life, along with ways that you might strengthen it. To ground this reflection, let's return to the metaphor that we introduced earlier. We talked about relationships being like a cake. And to make a good cake, you need the right ingredients in the right order and with the right timing. When steps are skipped, rushed, or overlooked, the outcome usually doesn't turn out the way that you hope. The relationship attachment model works in the same way. Each bonding area represents an ingredient, and our attachment patterns often influence how and when we add them. With that in mind, let's walk through this together, one step at a time. Before we look at the ingredients, we need to decide which recipe we're working with. To do that, I want you to take a moment to think of one relationship you'd like to reflect on. This could be a friendship, a family member, a partner, or even a work relationship. Remember, you're not evaluating the person, you're simply noticing the connection. Once you've chosen the relationship, we'll start with the first bonding area, the know. Knowing is about openness and understanding. In cake terms, this is gathering your ingredients, figuring out what's actually in the mix. Attachment patterns can influence how quickly or cautiously we allow ourselves to be known. When you're reflecting on this, ask yourself, do I share openly or do I tend to stay guarded? Or do I rush emotional closeness or do I hold back? When you're looking at it in terms of the attachment, when it comes to anxious attachment, you are someone who seeks reassurance through disclosure and feels uneasy when others don't open up quickly. I want you to use that as a moment to kind of reflect on yourself. Because if that's what you're doing, then that means that you could possibly be pushing people away quicker than you want to. And we have the avoidant attachment. This is somebody who's going to keep conversations surface level. They're going to avoid emotional topics and they feel uncomfortable with vulnerability. Experiencing these things does not mean that you're not relationship material. I want to make sure I make that clear. It just means that these are things that you need to look at in order to get to that level of secure attachment where you are sharing gradually and appropriately, where you're listening openly, and then expressing respect for pacing. Just like a cake, if we rush it, it won't be good. So take that time to get to know people. One thing that Van Epp points out in his book is the 90-day rule. And I know some of you have probably heard this also with Steve Harvey's Think Like a Man. There's a reason for that. Because in the first 30 days, someone is going to show you their best self. In the next 60 days, you start to see some of their personality. By the 90 days, they are who they are, if you've been paying attention. So it's important to pace yourself through these relationships. If it's the right one, you want to take the time that is necessary to be able to build that strong foundation within your relationship. As knowing develops, the next bonding area is trust. Trust is built through consistency and emotional safety over time. In baking, this is like letting the batter settle before moving on. You don't rush this part if you want things to hold together. So reflect for a moment. Do I feel emotionally safe in this relationship? How does my attachment style influence how I quickly trust or how much I hold back? Let me give you an example of what trust looks like in this area when you're looking at the attachment styles. If you're someone who has an anxious attachment style, trust can come quickly, but you worry about betrayal all the time. You start to read into small changes and have a need for frequent reassurance. If you're someone who has an avoidant attachment, then you tend to struggle to trust other and expect disappointment. This also influences you to keep emotional distance to feel safe. But if you're secure in this area, you're able to build trust over time. You can address those breaches in trust directly and also feel safe relying on accountability. Trust grows best when it's allowed to develop naturally. Once trust is forming, we move on to rely. And relying is about mutual support. It's knowing that you don't have to do everything alone. This is like sharing the work in the kitchen. Some attachment patterns lead us to take on everything ourselves. Others may lead us to lean too heavily too soon. As you reflect, think of, do I feel comfortable asking for support? Do I struggle with depending on others or letting others depend on me? What this looks like in our attachment styles is that if you're anxious, you're going to over rely on people for reassurance. You're also going to feel distressed when support isn't available. And then you feel like being a burden when you're seeking closeness. If you're avoidant, then you avoid asking for help altogether and you prefer handling it alone. You also feel uncomfortable when others depend on you. You're that chef in the kitchen that's pushing people away and trying to manage everything and things are burning. But if you are secure in your attachment in this area, then you are comfortable asking others for help. You also balance your independence and support, and you feel value rather than trapped when people ask you for help. Keep in mind that when looking at this area, that balance supports connection without feeling overwhelmed. Now we are going to our next stage of commitment. Commitment is about investment and intention. This is the moment when the cake actually goes in the oven, when the relationship is given time and space to develop. Without commitment, nothing has time to bake. Attachment patterns often show up clearly here. So, when you're looking at anxious attachment, this is when people tend to seek commitment quickly and they fear abandonment and they may over prioritize the relationship. Avoiding attachment styles tend to hesitate to commit. They avoid labels or long term plans and they often prioritize independence over closeness. These are your situationships, just so you know. If you are secure in this area, this person is comfortable with mutual commitment. You're communicating your expectations clearly, and then you're also balancing the loyalty with autonomy, meaning that you know when this person leaves from your presence that they're coming back, and you don't have that thought that something's going to happen. So, those who are still reflecting on those relationships, this is the point where you are asking yourself, does commitment in this relationship match my level of connection? Because that is so important when you are looking at these areas of bonding, making sure that the levels match. If before now you look at all of these levels and you notice that some of the levels are low that have come before this one, that doesn't mean that you need to break up with the person. It just means that y'all have some work to do to build up those other areas to, again, like I said before, have a strong foundation. Once all the other ingredients are in place, we arrive at closeness or touch, the emotional and physical connection within a relationship. This is the part where you get to enjoy the cake after it's been prepared properly. Closeness is not rushed, forced, or assumed. It grows from the foundation that has already been built. So, closeness can look different depending on the relationship. You have emotional warmth and shared vulnerability with friends, availability and connection with family, emotional and physical intimacy with partners, appropriate connection, respect, and rapport with coworkers. And just like all the other areas, our attachment patterns often influence how safe closeness feels or how much distance we need in order to stay regulated and connected. Just to give you an example, if you have an anxious attachment in this area, you use physical closeness for reassurance, and then you often feel rejected if affection decreases. And you also may struggle with personal space. If you are experiencing avoidant attachment in this area, it often feels uncomfortable to have that physical closeness. Your affection is limited and you tend to pull away when intimacy increases. But if you have secure attachment in this area, you are comfortable with appropriate touch. You're able to respect boundaries around closeness, and then you often use affection to connect rather than control. Attachment patterns often influence how safe closeness feels or how much distance we need in order to stay regulated and connected. As you take a step back and look at the five bonding areas, I want you to do this one thing. Take a moment to reflect on these questions. Which ingredients feel strong in this relationship? And which ones feel rushed, skipped, or are still developing? Just a reminder, all relationships with everyone are not the same. They're different. So, better, stronger relationships and a deeper awareness of what you are experiencing within your relationships can allow you to grow and have stronger relationships in the future. As I close, I just want to remind you all that you don't have to rebuild your relationships today. Awareness is the first ingredient, and you've already added it just by listening to this episode. Thank you, as always, for listening and taking this time to reflect. And until next time, stay mindful.
3, 2, 1, yeah!
Thank you for listening to Stay Mindful with Dr. Evelyn Davis. You can follow the podcast on Podbean, Apple Music, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and YouTube. And if today's episode helped you, leave a review or share it with someone who could use it. Until next time, stay mindful.